What if we took a game like Call of Duty Zombies and combined it with the likes of Binding of Isaac and Helldivers 2? This is what we're making. Hello everybody, I'm Matthew from the Rotten team, and I'm here to talk about our newest project. We've been super hard at work for the last few months trying to figure out what Rotten really is. Our game builds off of Call of Duty Zombies, a first-person horde shooter that pits you against endless waves of the undead. Our twist on this formula is adding roguelike elements to the progression system, allowing you to build powerful, horde-wiping weapons. But hold up, isn't this supposed to be a game inspired by COD Zombies? Well, it is, but we wanted to make major changes to really make Rotten stand out. We want to have game elements that traditional COD Zombies players will be familiar with, but with our own spin on it to make it more of a full experience. Rotten is still in a pretty bare-bones state, with simple mechanics like player movement, weapon firing, and basic zombie AI already implemented, as well as a few test maps for both level design and visuals. We're at a stage now where we can start branching out and trying new things. Now this begs the question, since we are basing our game off of COD Zombies, who are we really making Rotten for? COD Zombies has been around a long time, more than 15 years long, and obviously its gameplay has changed drastically. So much so that there's a bit of a divide, a barrier in the Zombies community between traditional and modern styles of gameplay. Our team grew up playing these games and completed nearly every Easter egg, and we want to go through our thoughts on both old and new titles, which will explain some of the changes we're making. If you'd like to skip our analysis of COD Zombies and go right to the changes we're making, skip to the timestamp on screen. Earlier titles like Black Ops 2 had more constrained movement and a two-hit down system. This influenced many aspects of gameplay like level design, where maps were created to be tighter with more thought put into general map flow and progression. This is seen in maps like Mob of the Dead, for example, where the player is thrown into confined hallways and corridors, and map progression is tied to intrinsic gameplay features like Afterlife. I mean, heck, as a whole, Black Ops 2 featured many unique gameplay features, and unique ways to progress through maps. Origins also offered a tighter play space and an overwhelming threat through its horrors and its boss zombie as well. This in some ways can be viewed as unfriendly to casual players, however, as the game's difficulty curve can make it difficult for novice players to progress through maps and main quests. Traditional zombies also feature simpler weapon progression, with a more grab-and-go mentality. In these installments, weapons are purchased from walls or the mystery box and upgraded once or twice, with little need for further modification. This just so happens to be one of the areas we're changing the most. Would you like the simple upgrade systems? However, we want to aim for something that's the best of both worlds. Easy to pick up, but complex. Modern titles have since changed this formula, obviously, featuring much more freedom of movement, where players can traverse maps in new and unique ways. Maps like Terminus allow players to mantle railings and dive into water, allowing players to escape sticky situations. However, while offering players more freedom in their movement, this, in some instances, kills the thrill of the game, as resiliency is at an all-time high. Furthermore, Modern Zombies has expanded and changed weapon progression to be more complex, featuring pack-a-punch, weapon rarity, attachments. Modern Zombies gives the player more to unlock and upgrade, but it can also kind of creep into tedium with too much to do. So, where does this leave Rotten? Do we want our game to appeal to the traditional crowd with simpler weapons and health systems, or should we go for the modern crowd with more complex weapons and movement? After giving it a lot of thought, we kind of realized that we shouldn't restrict ourselves to either of these styles. Rotten is its own game, and it should do its own things. Now this doesn't mean we aren't going to look at COD Zombies for guidance, but rather we're going to add things like roguelike elements for extra complexity and depth. For those unaware of roguelikes, they're a genre of game known for their procedurally generated levels, permanent death, and a whole lot of unpredictability. Each time you play, the world is different, so it's all about adapting to what the game throws at you, learning from your mistakes, and trying to go further the next time you play. As you can see, there's a lot of overlap between COD Zombies and roguelikes. We believe that COD Zombies has always kind of played with many roguelike ideas, such as their perk augments, permadeath, and randomized weapons. The general progression of starting weak and becoming strong is a key system that COD Zombies shares with that genre. However, not many people consider COD Zombies as a roguelike. We believe this is probably the case because zombies never really committed to these ideas. So we asked ourselves, what would happen if COD Zombies was a roguelike? And thus, we arrived at Rotten's identity, as a multiplayer horde shooter with heavy roguelike elements. We don't want to fully say our game is a traditional roguelike, as Rotten is still going to be a round-based survival game. However, we do want our weapon and character progression to mimic qualities found in roguelike games like The Binding of Isaac and Risk of Rain 2. So, what changes are we actually making? We've made a plethora of changes to the COD Zombies formula, too much to put into one video, so we'll just focus on weapons for this devlog. The biggest change for our weapons is with the introduction of weapon modifiers. Weapon modifiers are exciting upgrades that allow you to drastically change your guns and melee weapons. Weapon modifiers can only be equipped onto one gun with up to 4 weapon modifier slots each. Unlike COD Zombies perks, weapon modifiers do not apply to all weapons, it only applies to the weapon that the modifier is on. We want these upgrades to feel meaningful and impactful outside of just upping your damage stat. Here's a few examples of the current weapon modifiers we're testing. Static Caper causes each bullet to spark electricity, arcing to nearby enemies, dealing a good chunk of damage. Boom Stud makes each bullet explode on impact. And finally, Dinklage causes your headshots to ricochet to another enemy's head. The biggest inspiration for the system is the Binding of Isaac, where items that you find change the way Isaac attacks, from launching bombs to blood lasers. We want to try to recreate these moments, as well as their powerful synergies. These weapon modifiers can also be used together. If a player manages to get all 3 of these, they'll be dealing massive amounts of damage as they synergize together. We also have a special table called the Weaponsmith, which is used to both increase your damage and acquire weapon modifiers. At the Weaponsmith, you can upgrade your weapon up to 4 times, which increases the base damage of the weapon. Weaponsmiths can be found in multiple locations similar to the Arsenal in Black Ops 6. This might be alarming for some of you who enjoy a good Pack-a-Punch quest, and although we don't have all the details, we'll have a special upgrade for each weapon that will retain this experience. We'll cover more about this in a future devlog. Now, some of you might be wondering if this system is too strong. We do understand your concerns, and we have a few ways to limit power scaling. Weapon modifiers will come in 5 rarities. Simple stat modifiers like increasing ammo or reload speed are going to be common rarity, whereas super powerful horde wiping modifiers would be legendary rarity, thus harder to acquire. We want legendary modifiers to be exotic, where having 2 on one gun is very uncommon. Another way we are limiting the power of the weapon modifiers is that they cannot be removed from the gun that they are on. So if you decide to pick up a common modifier, it will stick on that gun for the rest of the game. Not being able to remove a weapon modifier makes building the perfect 4 legendary modifier gun a lot harder. This does sound very limiting, but since this is something that we are still testing, we're open to changing it in the future. So how exactly do you get these weapon modifiers? One way is through our new merchant system. The merchant is very similar to the mystery box, but instead of getting just one weapon, you can view a selection of weapons that are on sale. If you don't see a weapon you like, you can reroll the shop. These merchant weapons have a good chance of starting with a weapon modifier, and as the rounds progress, weapons and weapon modifier rarities will increase in the merchant. We like to think of our guns as a starting framework that can house these powerful modifiers. So when you're re-rolling a shop, you're looking for a framework you like, but also a potential epic or legendary modifier. As we're still in the testing phase for weapon modifiers, we're still exploring other ways to acquire them. One idea that we had was to make weapon modifiers craftable through the Weaponsmith. It would look something like the enchantment table from Minecraft, where you are only given 3 options to choose from. Once you pick one, the other options will disappear, and the next set of 3 will appear. We aren't against this system, but it might be too simple and lack complexity, as it relies solely on RNG, and we want to include some level of risk and reward. For example, we could have a sort of devil deal, where you agree to get a legendary modifier that comes with a negative modifier. Another thought was to make weapon modifiers a potential drop from powerful boss enemies that come in every few rounds as a reward. A possible issue with weapon modifiers being a reward drop, however, is that a smart player could keep their primary weapon from getting any lower rarity modifiers, to build an absolutely broken gun. We're unsure at this stage if we want players to build weapons this way, but we aren't totally against it if it's really fun. We'll just have to see. If you guys have any suggestions on more ways to acquire weapon modifiers, let us know in the comments. And that's all for this devlog. There's so much more the team and I'd like to share with you, from our physics-based movement system to potential other modes. Let us know what you guys would like to see more of. If you'd like to support us, you can leave a like, comment, share, and subscribe, and also join our Discord server to get updated on when our next devlog will drop. And for our older fans, thank you so much for sticking with us. Rotten's continued growth and change is all thanks to your support over the years. We hope to deliver an experience you look forward to and enjoy. And with that, as we say after every work meeting, have a rotten day.